It's Wednesday, April 18th. I'm Scott.
I'm Rim.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight we review the first volume of the awesome comic DMZ. Let's do this.
So I'm sure you all noticed that there was no show yesterday. Emily was kind enough to take me out to see Avenue Q, which I'd wanted to see for a long time, and I finally got to see it.
I stayed home and went to sleep because I hadn't slept enough and I was falling asleep at work. And today I didn't fall asleep at work.
No, you had enough time to get plenty of sleep. In fact, we went to bed fairly early the night before.
No, we didn't.
Yeah, we did. We were done with the show by 11.
Yeah. Meanwhile, before we were getting done with the show at 10, now we're starting the show at 9:30. It's not good. I don't like this business. We gotta start the show earlier. But yeah, part of the sleeping late does have to do with Pokemons.
See, despite the fact that you seem to be staying up late playing this Pokemon and I'm not, my Pokemons are all higher level than your Pokemons.
It's because you're a Bulbasaur, which gets more levels easily.
I don't even use the Bulbasaur. It's all Pidgeotto, or now Pidgeot.
So you got 2 Pokemons. I'm leveling up like 7 Pokemon.
Yeah, you know what? All my main Pokemon are at least level 30.
Yeah, I'm leveling up my Pokemons too.
Yeah, we'll see. Why don't we have a Pokemon battle?
Maybe we will one day when I have the Pokemon I want and not the Pokemon I'm forced to have out of necessity of not being done with the game yet.
But yeah, Avenue Q was absolutely hilarious, and I highly recommend that all of you go see it while it's still playing. I imagine it'll play for a while yet, since apparently Emily got the last 2 tickets.
Yeah, you know, plays are sort of like, as long as they keep playing, they're probably worth seeing. Unlike movies, which, you know...
No, that doesn't really work, because they always play at least a couple nights, so it kept playing those nights. Doesn't mean it was worthwhile.
Well, it seems to be that, like, a play is so expensive to put on that, like, as soon as you stop selling out, you can't afford to keep putting on the show. So if a show's been going for a long time, or it's still going, or if all the tickets keep selling out and you manage to get some, it's probably worth seeing.
Well, the thing is, Avenue Q is weird because it's kind of that Muppet thing. So it's all actors on stage, but they're holding puppets, and the puppets are the actual characters. The actors are just people in gray pants and gray shirts you're supposed to ignore. And you know what? After about 30 seconds, you totally forget they're there. It's kind of weird.
Wow, that's kind of weird.
It really is. You'll watch like, all right, so there's that guy, and then by the end, you suddenly realize that, wait a minute, there's a guy there. Whoa, what's that guy doing there?
Yeah, I've seen videos of it online, and I've always paid attention to the guy, but I never went to see the thing. So
seeing it live, you don't pay attention to the guy.
We'll see. Maybe I will pay attention to the guy. I tend to have a problem going to see plays that I always try. I do the same thing when I go to like a magic show, where I try to look on purpose where I'm not supposed to look, and it ends up actually giving me the wrong experience, but...
So what, at Les Mis, you see the guy at the edge of the stage after he gets off the spinny bit, like take his wig off and...
Yeah, pretty much. And like I'll look at the spinny turntable, like just to see how it works, and like I'll look for a guy controlling it, and when like a guy enters and leaves stage, or is like there's guys in the corners, I'll always look to the sides and never to where I'm supposed to be looking. Or like when people are dancing, like I'll look at their feet to see what's going on.
One thing I always do, because I always tend to sit kind of high up or in balconies or whatever, is I always look and try to see if I can point out all the little stage marks, like where so-and-so is supposed to stand, or where the smoke's going to explode, or whatever's going to happen.
Yep. It's sort of a bad thing, like looking at the end of a book or something. Maybe I shouldn't do it anymore, but I can't really help myself.
When I was young, I used to have a thing with books where whenever I got a new book, I would always flip to the second to last page, read a random sentence. One sentence, and stop right there, and just keep that in my mind throughout the whole thing.
Why? What's the point of
I
that?
don't know. It gave me a perspective, I guess. Sometimes the sentence wasn't really relevant.
And that was the end.
And so it stood.
And so, lo. All right.
Of course, that's a lot better than Ava, where I saw End of Evangelion before I knew there even was a TV show.
Well, at least
that made it a little bit different to watch.
A little bit, not much.
So, in the news, and this ties very much into my thing of the day, but there's a show out there called Hokuto no Ken, a.k.a. Fist of the North Star.
Anime World Order likes this show a lot. It's a really old show from the 80s.
I have my opinions about it. I'll leave that as it may, but it's a generally surprisingly popular show.
At least outside the U.S., it is very popular. In the U.S., not so much.
And you can't deny that it is in many ways an important show. However, today, some 3,000 people attended a real-life acted-out funeral for a character from the new Fist of the North Star movie entitled True Savior, Legend Fist of the North Star, The Legend of Raoh, Fierce Fighting Arc.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's quite the name.
Now, they're doing this straight up. It looks like it's going to be a traditional Buddhist send-off or a traditional Buddhist funeral. And they've got, to represent the family of this character who I guess dies in this movie, is none other than Baron-san.
Way to spoil the movie for people who haven't gone to see it by having a funeral for a character who dies in it.
Yeah, well, apparently 3,000 people showed up in the bitter cold to stand there and pay their respects to this guy.
Wow.
The Legend of Raoh, Fierce Fighting Arc, to quote Anime News Network, is the third in a 5-part series. It is the conclusion of the Raoh saga and features the epic battle between Kenshiro, the main character, and Raoh.
Gasp! I never would have suspected. It's a total shocker right there. You know, Jurassic Park has dinosaurs.
Someone's ruined Titanic for me. Apparently that boat sinks.
Oh God, I didn't know. So in Pearl Harbor, the Japanese attack.
Yeah, but Fist of the North Star, a lot of people have mixed feelings about it. And as far as I can gather, all the show is a bunch of muscly men who, there's ostensibly a plot, but that doesn't matter. They yell at each other, and Kenshiro stands there glowering. And then he'll go, "What?" The guy will say, "That didn't hurt." Then Kenshiro will say, "You're already dead." Then the guy will go, "Huh? Oh? Ah!" And his head will explode to dramatic music.
That's pretty much the show, right?
It's the whole
there.
show.
That's the whole show.
Yeah.
And apparently people love that so much that they'll go to a funeral for a fictional person.
I will admit that I have had a lot of fun just randomly watching fight scenes from it on YouTube lately.
Yeah, it's something about it where you watch it and it's so dumb, but then the guy goes, "What?" and some head explodes. And that in and of itself is hilarious, and you can watch it 1,000 times.
Plus, this guy has bigger eyebrows than Beldandy used to.
Oh.
Ha ha, I went there.
Bigger than Rim used to. Oh.
Oh. I don't think his eyebrows are really a match for mine. You see, much like the characters in various shows like Dragon Ball, who will somehow limit their power, I pluck the middle of my eyebrow solely to prevent it from being so powerful that would in fact rule the world and overpower lesser men's minds.
I'll just say Bert and Ernie then.
Ah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a gay Bert in Avenue Q, if you haven't seen it.
Great. So, I got a news here, and this news is so insignificant that no one cares. The odds of anyone listening to this show having already known this news are pretty small unless you go to Temple University in Philly, which I don't think anyone does. But I'm going to give you this news anyway because it will prompt much discussion. You ready for this?
I'm ready. Scott refused to tell me what this was earlier when we were doing pre-production, so I'm going to be surprised by this, I assume.
Yes. Temple University is having student government elections at some point in the near future.
All right. I have stories about RIT's student government elections, but that'll be a Thursday.
Yep. And then we're going to have an event at some point where some of the student government people are going to give speeches or whatever or something. And generally people, as people are to student government things, are apathetic and don't care or whatever.
So were any cockboats involved?
No. So they show up to... the student government people are having this event. They show up, and they find that the stage that they have scheduled is already occupied by the anime club, which is having a martial arts demonstration. But obviously, when you read the description, these people are just cosplaying as Dragon Ball characters and pretending to fight with each other.
Now, had this anime club reserved the stage duly?
They did. They actually reserved it before the student government people did, and the student government people had to leave.
That harkens back to RIT on at least 100 different occasions.
And apparently the, event Office of Student Activities fucked up.
That's
gave
kind
the
of
same
awesome.
room to two people at the same time.
See, that happened a lot at RIT, where we'd plan an event for the anime club, and some other group, most often it was the women's group on campus, the women's center, who I have
But
my...
also the players, the RC players.
No, the players almost never really got in our way. It was
Well,
almost
they
always...
could be in the hall, the other side of the hall.
Yeah, but that didn't cause any trouble.
Once
The,
it did.
the only problem we ever had was at the women's center. Because they'd always get mad that there was noise going on outside of whatever event they were having, that they somehow didn't seem to look at the calendar and see that, oh, the anime club is planning some sort of horrible, gigantic, festering mass of fanboys watching anime and dancing for 4 or 5 hours. And they would just schedule their vagina monologues or whatever.
Good job checking that schedule there. Oh, yeah, it's a good idea to have our convention the same weekend as Otakon. I don't need to look at schedules of other things.
Yeah, I'm sure I can reserve the BCC.
Oh, yeah, it should be easy. I'll just reserve the Javits for tomorrow when I have a convention.
The funny thing about that one instant was that this women's center, the guy who runs the women's center, came over and he's yelling at me in this tirade, like, you've got to turn that loud, crazy music down and you're ruining my event, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to call campus safety. And I was like, go ahead and call campus safety. You knew we had this room. I got the piece of paper saying I have this room. What do you think campus safety is going to say?
It gets a person pretty pissed off when you pretty much say, haha, you're wrong, nothing you can do, haha.
With one exception, that guy is the most indignant person I've ever met.
Wow, you're one person more indignant.
One person, and I met that person while waiting at the Lewiston Bridge into Canada once.
Yeah. I just want to point out one more time that the Anime Club at Temple University, probably cool people, but they were randomly, for no reason at all, other than to have fun, I guess, if they like that sort of thing, was cosplaying Dragon Ball and pretending to fight each other.
They called it a martial arts demonstration.
I assume so. Are these guys like... Are you sure this wasn't the Temple Elementary School Anime Club? Or perhaps the Temple Middle School Anime Club?
What kind of event is that?
I don't know, but...
Granted, that makes the humiliation of the actual legitimate student government that much more hilarious.
I think that is the point.
Things of the day. Right along with my news about that funeral for that fake character from that Japanese cartoon, I've got a link to said Japanese cartoon. Now, more specifically, we've been watching a bunch of and then head exploding all over YouTube. And in case you wondered what Fist of the North Star is actually about, as opposed to what we said it's about, this is the third section, the third third of the first episode of Fist of the North Star.
The first episode ever.
Pretty much, it explains everything that matters about this show in the course of about 3 minutes.
Yeah, having, hear people constantly talk about the show, knowing about the show, knowing it's an important piece of anime history, playing a fun video game based on it, and such. We decided it was actually time to try to watch it. So we went to YouTube, and we watched the first episode, and here's the part that everyone who's an anime fan should watch, whether you like it or not.
Yep, and all I've learned is that, one, it is generally hilarious to watch a man's head explode. And I could watch that over and over again for a great time to come.
I think it's just the way they animate the head exploding. It's like...
They put more effort into animating the heads exploding than they do anything else.
Yeah, it's like the people just stand there. They don't talk much. They don't move much. But when the heads explode, that's when the action is.
But as far as I can gather, I can't ever see myself liking this show in a non-ironic fashion.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, it is hilarious to watch the fights, even though there's no interesting fight choreography, at least not in the fights that we've seen. And the plot, the overall plot, seems to be interesting, There's a big post-apocalyptic world where stuff happens and there's dangerous shit going down, etc., etc. That is interesting, but any individual episode seems to just be a formulaic shonen fighting.
Oh, there's a guy.
There's a guy. He's making trouble. We must fight.
And the thing is, it's not like choreographed fight scenes, because I've seen a lot of anime that were dumb, but had really good fight scenes. I've seen anime that were really good and had really good fight scenes.
And bad.
Fist of the North Star is a fighting anime ostensibly, though I guess it isn't really because there aren't fights. It's pretty much just two muscly guys going, I am the blah, 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 blah. And the other muscly guy just stands there with his heavy eyebrows glowering. And then he, with his crap animation, it's just garbage. I gotta say it. It's garbage. It's not good.
Well, it's old 80s animation, so yeah.
Yeah.
It's not as bad as this other animation that we're not going to talk about yet because it's secret.
Oh, that fucking thing.
Yeah.
Oh my god. You guys are in for a treat.
Yeah, eventually.
We saw something.
We saw something. We're not going to tell anyone.
We're not
though.
even going to hint at what it is.
Nope. Except it's bad.
Yeah. So, if nothing else, watch this bit and you'll know everything you ever will need to know about Fist of the North Star. And if you find yourself liking this, or you think, hey, I want to see the show that has this plot, well, I'd recommend just searching on YouTube for Hokuto no Ken, watching the first 15 non-anime music videos that show up.
Non-video game also.
Yes, non-video game. And that's really all you need to do. When you see a man who has a shotgun, and the only reason that he doesn't just kill Kenshiro is that when Kenshiro punched him earlier, he did it in such a way as to mess with the guy's body so that every time he tried to shoot the gun spun around and pointed at him instead. That's what Fist of the North Star is.
Yeah, I mean, that has nothing to do with the overall plot of the show of post-apocalyptic world, but is in and of itself hilarious.
The overall plot is only awesome if someone explains it to you or spoils it or just tells it to you like it's a story. If you actually watch it, it's really not so cool
Imagine
anymore.
getting this giant, awesome plot and then having it being doled out to you in the tiniest portions possible. Like one word at a time, like a word a week. That's what Fist of the North Star is. Worse than One Piece, and maybe not as bad as One Piece. But anyway.
Now, you know what? This is what, in regards to all these fighting, shonen, whatever shows, I would rather watch all of Fist of the North Star than watch even half of One Piece or Bleach or Naruto at this point.
It's got to be tough because I haven't watched enough of any of them to really say which one would be the most tolerable.
I think Fist of the North Star is because I can take it in a purely laughable way. If I view it as a comedy and not as a serious show, it is so much more tolerable.
All right, so we've used funny Japanese prank videos as things of the day before. We had the one with the
Guy tries to pee.
Guy tries to pee in the porta potty and it lifts him up out of the roof. We've had the one at the snow mountain where people, sit down in like a massage chair or whatever it was, and it just sends them out onto the mountain and they start sliding down the hill.
Well, the problem with these videos was that while they were awesome, there was a lot of build-up and explanation, and they only actually showed them getting like 4 or 5 different people.
And they showed the same prank every time. So it's like once you were onto the 3rd or 4th guy, it was just like, all right, it's the same thing as before, just a different reaction shot.
Granted, they always save the last one for the guy who got injured, or the guy who got stuck, or hit in the head or something.
Yep. Here is a Japanese prank video that mixes up a lot of different pranks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, at first they've got like a stuffed animal of some sort that makes a horrible roaring noise. They've got a guy jumping out of a trash can. You don't realize he's in there. They've got a fake snowball that they roll down a hill at people.
The fake snowball's the best one.
They've got a fake rock that they roll down the street at a guy as he comes around the corner on his bicycle.
Salaryman comes around the corner, suddenly behind him, Indiana Jones boulder.
Yup, even though it's fake. They've got some guy was bowling and he had a fake bowling ball.
That one was great because even though I knew this was a video of pranks, they obviously were all pranks, and not like prank with a tire iron, but real pranks. Yep. Pranks that don't kill people. And I flinched when the bowling ball went back, because for a second my mind said, that's a bowling ball.
Yup. All I gotta say is I need me a fake bowling ball.
Oh, hardcore. I mean, we have that fake rock that we've gotten almost everyone we know with. It's really not... I'm gonna ruin it now.
No one's ever gonna get caught by the fake rock ever again.
No. But the fake bowling ball...
The fake bowling ball could work. You gotta be at a bowling alley, though.
I don't think either one of us should ruin what the last prank is.
I don't remember what it is, so awesome.
When they put something in the bathroom.
Oh.
Yeah, the prank is, guy is trying to pee. There is something in the bathroom with him.
I remember now.
And who thought of that?
I don't know. Crazy Japanese people. They think of all this crazy shit. I mean, they have funerals for fictional people. Come on. This is nothing compared to that.
So, tonight... Since there has been, due to popular demand, a demand, that was a poorly phrased way to open this, for us to do comics a little bit. Since we do mostly anime and manga lately, partly because Scott reads more comics than I do, which isn't that many, and I read...
And most of the comics I read are manga.
And I read almost 0 non-manga comics. So every now and then, Scott will leave something on my desk, and if I ever get to it, I'll read it, and then we'll do a show on it eventually, and such a thing has happened, and I finally read a comic.
Oh my god, Rim read a comic.
So, DMZ on the ground.
Well, On the Ground is the name of the first trade paperback. The
Yes.
second trade paperback is named something else.
I say specifically On the Ground because neither one of us have read anything but On the Ground from DMZ.
Yes, I would read the second trade, but I have not bought it yet, and so I have no idea what happens in it. Needless to say, DMZ is a comic published by Vertigo, written by Brian Wood. The artist is an Italian name that I don't really want to attempt to say. Do you want to attempt to say it?
It says John Doe in parentheses. I'm going to go with that.
Really?
Yeah, it does.
Wow, that's pretty
No, it's
funny.
Riccardo Bercielli.
Yeah, apparently it's the first American comic he's ever done.
Really? Huh.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Now, the story, or I guess the story is one thing, and then the background to the story is something else. And I'll say right now that I really like this. And I am generally cynical about comics, so for me, that says a lot. To get me to say after I read a comic that it was tolerable is quite a feat.
Yeah, I mean, this comic, I read it not knowing anything about it. I bought it because it was the first, it was volume 1 of a Vertigo series, so they're usually cheap, and you can get to know whether you're going to want to read the rest of the thing or not. And it was also pretty popular, so I said, hey, I'll see what this thing's about, and if I don't like it, I just won't buy anymore.
It's also set in Manhattan, and we all seem to have a general fondness for things that are set in places we live or know.
Well, I think most people, when something is set where they live, or they kind of like to go read it because then you can look in it and see stuff. Like if you have been to Manhattan, you can see places in this book and you're like, hey, that's a building I seen. That's a building I was in. That's a street I was on.
See, that's a dangerous road to follow because I still kind of want to see 8 Mile just to see if it's actually like 8 Mile.
Get stabbed.
But at the same time, I don't want to... I don't know if I ever told the story about the stabbing.
The fake stabbing.
I don't know if I did.
I think we did because we told the Movies You Should See guy to.
Maybe we just told him. I don't know.
I don't remember it. Anyway.
So the background here to this story is a little bit far-fetched. I'm just going to read from the back because this puts it together very succinctly. With overseas wars bogging down the Army and National Guard, politics coming into this little bit?
A little bit.
The U.S. government mistakenly neglects the very real threat of anti-establishment militias scattered throughout the United States. Like a sleeping giant, Middle America rises up and violently pushes its way to the shining seas, sparking a second American Civil War, coming to a standstill at the line in the sand, Manhattan. Or, as the world now knows it, the DMZ.
Yeah, if you look at the first page of the trade, it shows this little map. And on the map, there are 3 areas, basically. There's New Jersey and Inland, which is the Free States. There's Manhattan, which is the DMZ. And there's Brooklyn, Queens, Long Island, and the United States.
Now, aside from the fact that right there, the setup that they have contrived to make Manhattan the place where this actually takes place is a little bit far-fetched.
Yeah.
For a number of reasons.
I mean, seriously, what kind of armed United States revolution is going to conquer all the way up to New Jersey, not get over the Hudson, and then the United States is somehow not going to be taking Manhattan and taking only the parts east, and then Manhattan itself is going to be all weird and in the middle.
Now, granted, there are a lot of anti-establishment militias in the United States. There's actually far more of them than you would probably ever believe. I grew up in Michigan, and there are a lot of people living in the wilderness in the middle of Michigan all alone in giant fortresses surrounded by guns, just waiting for the day when they have to rise up and be true patriots.
Yeah, well, those crazy people can stay in their fortresses.
Well, the thing is, even if you got all of them together and they somehow coordinated, despite the fact that none of them trust each other at all, I somehow doubt that these militia could do anything in the face of the United States military, which pretty much would just cruise missile them.
Yeah. Well, regardless of the feasibility of the premise of this story, the story itself is actually pretty cool.
Yeah, you see, the story is one of a kid named Matty Roth. He's not a little kid, he's some college punk.
Yeah, he's 20-something.
A, quote, naive, aspiring photojournalist lands a dream gig following a veteran war correspondent into the heart of the DMZ.
Yeah, basically, you have this guy who's like the greatest journalist in the world. He's like the king of journalism.
He's also a total cock.
He's also a total asshole, yes. And he's going into the DMZ to get the story of the century, to do a huge photo, write-up, video, everything. And they've got a helicopter, and they've got a bunch of equipment and a bunch of guards, and they got everything. And this guy His 20-something college kid is the intern, and he's going into the DMZ with this big crew because no one goes in the DMZ. It's like this incredibly dangerous area in between these two at war forces. So no one goes there. I mean, Manhattan, right now has millions of people in it. And in the story, the DMZ is down to like 400,000 people in it. There's no one there.
Well, there are evacuation routes, and there are theoretically plans and systems in place to evacuate all of Manhattan in fairly short order.
Yep.
I wonder how well those would actually work, but that's beside the point.
Regardless, in the story, there's only 400,000 people there, which leaves it pretty sparse. And these guys are going in to get the story because no one else goes there.
Now, minor spoiler, but this happens right away.
It happens like on the first page.
This is the plot is they land in by helicopter and are immediately attacked by just people in Manhattan. The entire crew just about is killed, including the stupid cock reporter guy.
Yeah, and the only one left alive is the intern.
The intern, and all of the equipment is still there.
Yep.
So now he's freaking out. He's trapped in this war zone. He doesn't know what to do. One thing leads to another, and the story of DMZ is that he's now living in the DMZ on his own, covering what's going on there.
He's the only reporter there. He's the only reporter to ever be there. I mean, I guess since it was normal Manhattan. And he's just some intern punk with a lot of equipment, and he's trying to get by. And it's pretty cool because you've actually got like two different things going on. You've got the story of the world and the setting that you don't know much about, and this guy is reporting on it, and as he's reporting on it and learning about it, you're learning about it too. And you've also got the story of the guy, and how is he not gonna die today? And they sort of go hand in hand. It's like, pretty cool.
I mean, I really do enjoy it. The plot moves along at just about the pace that'll keep me going and keep me interested.
That's actually the one thing that kind of bothered me, though, is that obviously this thing was written originally as separate comic book issues, and you can... it's marked where the issues begin and end, but the plot definitely jumps in between issues. Like in the first issue, he kind of meets someone. And the second issue, it's like they were best friends and they skipped a whole bunch of stuff.
But granted, I'm glad they skipped that because they skipped all the parts that usually I find tedious or take forever or get on with it. I want to see what's going to happen later.
Yeah, I definitely don't mind it, but it is slightly jarring. Like, they just skipped a bunch of stuff. As opposed, it doesn't feel 100% natural. It actually takes me out for like a second, and I go, oh, they must have skipped some stuff that's not so important. All right,
See,
and then
I
get back into it.
I feel the opposite. To me, by skipping that, I feel like the relationships are a lot more real and natural because now I didn't have to rely on direct, continuous storytelling of building the relationships and all of these things. I can skip that, and then it gets right to the meat, and instead of having the imperfect memory of what was written down, it was just skipped, and I just don't even worry about it.
Yeah, I agree. It's just that I notice it. Like, I noticed that it was skipped, and that takes me out of it for a second.
I didn't really notice it first. Like, I just totally blew by it.
Oh, see, I totally noticed. Like, whoa, why are they acting all super friendly all of a sudden? They weren't acting super friendly 5 pages ago. They must have just, it's in the future some. All right.
The other nice thing is that it really doesn't follow the kind of stereotypical plot you would expect. And the situation progresses fairly rapidly.
Yeah, it seems like each issue shows you a different aspect of what's going on in the DMZ. It's like in one issue, they show you these guys who are defending Central Park. In another issue, they show you this guy who's a sniper aiming across at New Jersey where there's a girl, and he's like, hey, what's up?
I love those two. Their relationship consists of shooting at each other.
That's pretty awesome right there.
Now, it gets a little far-fetched at times that, there's one group of people who have holed up, I think, near Central Park in the zoo, and they've basically got their own society and their own science and their own agriculture, and some people have restaurants and tofu garden things set up on the roofs of buildings, and a lot of it's a little bit far-fetched.
Yeah, but while it's far-fetched, it's entertaining. It's
yes.
It's like, okay, this would never be. If you're trying to tell me this is real, then I'm not going to believe you. But regardless, the idea of this is awesome, and I am happy that I am reading it. It's like I would never expect there to be a tofu garden or some guys hiding in Central Park if Manhattan suddenly became the most war-crazied place in the entire world. But if there was, that would be totally awesome. And reading about it existing, it's sort of like a nice little fantasy world. Like, woohoo!
And there's a bit at the end of this volume which I don't really want to go into it because it was really cool and I don't want to spoil it for you. But suffice to say, they go about a way of revealing a whole bunch of story. Not so much story as what's going on with the plot, but story as kind of the overarching where this thing's going, the direction of it, how the characters have evolved over time. And it all revolves around this chase that culminates in not really a cliffhanger, but definitely set up for the next volume.
Yeah.
I really can't say more without ruining it, but I think Scott knows what I'm talking about, and I think it's really cool.
It is pretty cool, and it's sort of crazy to think about where it could go, because it can go so many different ways. It's like they're sort of revealing that they're going to reveal, as opposed to just revealing. And I kind of like that.
Yep. The one thing I gotta say is that the comic is definitely...
It is a manga, technically.
Nah. It looks like, and it generally goes along the lines of, yeah, these rebels are bad, but you guys, the U.S., are just as bad with the things you're doing. But everything I look at so far, I would be under the impression that the rebels are bad in almost every sense. And I'm pretty much entirely on the side of the actual still standing United States so far.
Yeah, I mean, politically speaking, I mean, if you look at this as a commentary on the real world politics, I would probably agree with you. But in terms of the book itself, you know, where politics are not real and it's totally fake and it's just a fantasy world, I find myself just siding with the people in the DMZ and everyone else sucks. Because most of the time you're hanging out in the DMZ where people are just trying to scrape by and you sort of feel bad for them. And
yeah,
you know, they're the ones who are having the hard time. And those are the characters you get to know. And you know, I'm sure if it took place, say, in the U.S. and you got to know those characters, it's like as soon as you get to know people, you're on their side. And in the book, the people you get to know more than anyone are, of course, the reporter guy and the people in the DMZ.
Yep, of course.
You're on their side.
At the same time, a lot of the people in the DMZ are really fucked up. And there's Mad Max tribal societies and scary people and problems.
They constantly talk about like which neighborhoods you can't go to because people just shoot you, and how to like approach people who haven't seen you before because people will recognize you because there aren't so many people around. And it's
really cool how as the plot goes on, he starts becoming famous in the DMZ and everyone kind of knows him and they just let him to his devices.
Yeah. I think the trademark, actually, of the thing is the press jacket. Because it's like, oh, he's wearing the press jacket.
Yeah, there's a good scene where, in a stroke of genius, they spray paint in white press on his back so a sniper doesn't shoot him while they tend to some wounded guy.
Yep.
Plus, he's got an actual legitimate press pass, a badge that he carries around.
There's actually a t-shirt you can buy, but I think it's sold out. But some comic book store in L.A. was selling it for a little while. They might have it again, where it had like sort of a DMZ logo on the front. And if you turn the shirt inside out, it would say press on the back. I kind of wanted one, but when I went and they were sold out, I just stopped trying.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be a semi-short episode tonight, partly because there's not much more we can say without going into the plot or ruining it or anything, and we'll definitely have to save that for some final thoughts after we read the rest of it.
Yeah, DMZ, it's a comic about a civil war in the United States. It's a survival tale of a guy stuck in a crazy war zone.
The story's dark. The art is dark. It's pretty violent.
Yep. It's a political commentary, and it's pretty awesome, and everyone should read it. If you have... How much does it cost? Like $10?
Yep, $10.
Pretty cheap.
Plus, goddamn, I'm actually planning to read a lot more comics now.
Oh, no.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I normally I was driving to work, so I was rocking the podcast. But since I went into Manhattan last night... And I realized something when I woke up this morning and went back to work and I did the reverse commute. You know, I woke up, went to Grand Central, and I took a train north to my job. And it was pretty awesome to wake up and shower and then walk out a door and immediately be immersed in a sea of people in downtown New York City.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess not downtown, but you get the idea. And then, I don't know, I like the train, so I'm starting to take the train to work now. I'm just leaving my car parked down in the Bronx, and I'll just take the train to it every day.
What if you need the car here?
When do I ever need my car here?
Yeah, if you have to go somewhere.
Where?
I don't know, somewhere.
Where am I going to go? Plus, I'm going to take the car back on weekends, and I still got to get the car repaired.
Yeah, the car needs some repairs.
Yeah. But, man, if I could afford it, I would live in Manhattan in a second.
Yeah, I just hope it doesn't become a terrible war zone, and you'll be all right.
Yeah, if Manhattan becomes a terrible war zone, moving back to Beacon.
What? Beacon was a war zone in the last revolution.
No, it really wasn't. Beacon was just I don't know if any battles happened here. I'm pretty sure
there was a battle.
No, the most history of beacon I've seen is that whenever British troops are on the move, they lit signal beacons at the top of Mount Beacon to warn Washington.
Yeah, there's a statue of George Washington like over by that corner.
Yep.
Whatever.
Even though this is the saddest thing. Up at the top of Mount Beacon, the Daughters of the American Revolution, the original ones way back, erected a monument to commemorate everything that had been done in the Revolutionary War. And it wasn't that long ago that vandals, for no apparent reason, knocked it over and destroyed it.
Okay.
Yep. Oh yeah, and one last bit here. I didn't really do a news because this is definitely the earliest of tenuous information, but an anonymous source has informed us that people have been talking about Otakon this year might have some bigger important guests, and the word on the street is Seiyu.
All right.
That could mean any number of things depending on how you look at it. I can think of a few people who might fit that description that would also be big name guests, or maybe troops of people. I guess that's all I know. It's not like I can say anything more other than wild, rampant speculation.
I mean, that really shouldn't matter to you anyway, because if you can go to Otakon, you should already be going,
Yes.
regardless of what the word on the street is.
See, the thing is, when it comes to Otakon, I keep abreast of what's going to happen there, or what's going to be there, what music act will be there, because I like to know ahead of time, and it makes me excited about it. But I'm going to go no matter what, so it's not like
Yeah, I
it's
would
even
go
a-
if they said, yeah, Otakon, we don't have any guests this year because we fucked up.
Well, see, the thing
I'm
is-
coming.
Otakon, even if the con didn't happen somehow, if all that the con was one year
Oh, we forgot
was,
to rent the BCC.
was the BCC rented out and no events, and it was just 25,000 anime geeks in a building together for 3 days. That's pretty much what it is now anyway. It's not like I go to many panels.
Yeah. Oh, and speaking of going to things, this Saturday, so 3 days from now, April 21st, 2007, is Gaming for Hope at Marist, I think, right?
Yeah, Marist College in New York.
Yes, in Poughkeepsie-ish area. I don't know. It's not hard to get to. You can go to the website. I think it's like gamingforhope.org.
Yep, I linked to it yesterday.
Okay. Yeah, so if you go to frontrowcrew.com, there's a link to it. It's gamingforhope.org. If you are anywhere near that area, the area near us, you should go. It's from 1 p.m. to 1 a.m.
We went last year, and it was pretty badass. It's also free.
Yeah, basically they fill the gymnasium with consoles and tables for LAN parties, and I'm sure there'll be, Guitar Heroes and DDRs and all those sorts of things. And they have some raffles, and they have some food they sell, and you can give donations, and they give all the money to Child's Play, and it's a fun time. 1 day of gaming and fun.
Yes, in fact, that was the first time we played a big game of Kalis last year.
It was indeed, yeah. We'll be bringing some board games and playing them there, and also de-essing it up and such and such.
Yep.
If you're anywhere nearby, you should go, if at all possible. And I don't think we're going to be there in an official context, but we'll be there just because we were going to go, just like you should go.
Yep. And also, we mentioned it last week, but keep an eye out, and if you have any plans, consider going to Kineticon, because we're going to be there rocking the goddamn house with a bunch of events. Once I finalize it, we'll have more information about that.
Yeah, but that's a ways out, so don't worry about it.
And of course, if you're in the North Carolina area, I'm going to be at Animazement this year. And if you're going to be in the upstate New York area, at least myself, probably not Scott, is going to be at Toricon up at RIT.
That's the 28th, right?
Yep, next weekend.
Yes.
Pretty much. And I looked at my calendar. Because remember last year, we complained for about 7 months about how we never had any free weekends. And then we suddenly had a whole bunch of free weekends. And it was great. It looks like starting this weekend, we're not going to get any rest until winter.
Yeah, I would have gotten more sleep last night, but I had to do laundry because there was no way I could have done it this weekend or any other day.
Yeah. And you also probably played some Pokemons.
No, I didn't. I just did laundry, and as soon as the laundry was done, I dropped it in my room and went to bed.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
I had s'mores in Manhattan.
Great.
There's a little restaurant. They actually bring a little fire out. It's this pink goop, and they light it on fire. We asked them what it was, and they weren't sure. Other than that, it's toxic. But they light it on fire in the middle of the table, and then they give you a bunch of marshmallows and chocolate. It was pretty badass, I gotta say.
I guess if you could think of it, you'll find it somewhere.
I love Manhattan.
Until there's a civil war.
Yeah, but then I can be some sort of awesome Geeknights reporter, and I'll wander around with a press pass, and no one will shoot at me because I'm just so badass.
Yeah, such a badass, right?
Yeah, well, until the SWAT team strips me naked because they think I'm a sniper.
Exactly.
This has been Geek Nights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geek Nights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via Odeo. Just click the link that says Send Me an Audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.